Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Mumpoto Nutrition Show. Today we're looking at food production. We want to explore how to access the nutritious food, how we can improve both in the rural areas as well as the urban areas. Ensuring that we access nutritious food and the food security as a whole requires a multiple dimension, and more particularly in the agriculture sector. We see on average, Zambian farmers produce about 2 metric tons of maize. That is, against the larger target of 5. This is due to a number of constraints that affect the smallholder farmers in our country, a situation that in turn perpetuates rural poverty. We see there is need to promote agriculture diversification, there is need to improve technology, digitalization, and irrigation systems. Also, we see the need to support the smallholder farmers in accessing inputs. And when we say inputs, it's the seeds that we're talking about, the credit, the markets, and the input value chains. This is our bone of contention today on the Mumpoto Nutrition Show.
Dear friends, the European Union is happy to bring to you the Mumpoto Nutrition Debates and Facts. Through 5 episodes, we'll try to understand the biggest challenges and opportunities of Zambia's food system. Together with experts and actors from the ground, we will learn what a nutritious and balanced diet is and how it impacts our health, growth and well-being. We will cover all parts of the European Union Green Deal, moving to fairer, healthier and environmentally friendly food supply and consumption. Through our new programming 2021-2027 for Zambia, we aim to support the government and citizens in creating green partnership for sustainable recovery, growth and decent jobs, as well as in building fair, inclusive and peaceful society.
For what we are about to receive, may the good Lord make us truly thankful. Amen.
Amen.
It's amazing what one can do with what we have. There's nothing imported here. So we are grateful to the European Union for just reminding us and working with us in telling the farmers that we can get the necessary nutrition when we do the necessary agriculture through support that we get from cooperating partners and our own initiatives. I love my carpenter. Do you know carpenter? The small fish. It's a very, very small fish. I just love it.
I love vegetables, and I always take a variety of vegetables. I just love vegetables. We are seeing in the health sector that we have a lot of non-communicable diseases which are caused by bad habits of eating and eating wrong foods.
My favorite is Chihuahua. It's very nutritious. Avocados, Zambian avocados. With tomato, I can eat every day. Yeah.
Now I know why you were scoring goals when we were playing football. This is very healthy. Where I come from in the Eastern Province, this Mumpoto is common for most of the areas. It means in the pot. Really what we are looking at is how do we look at the processes from production all the way up to what we have in the pot and how we enjoy it. And there's a whole concept of the value chain here.
Currently, our fish has been depleted. So we are going into a program of aquaculture by trying to educate our people to start farming fish. It's not only just to look at income generating activities, but also to look at the component of nutrition value.
With our new programming for years to come, 2021-2027, we are really committed to support your efforts.
Attend team, let's drink.
Guys,
Attend team.
This is the Mumpoto Nutrition Show. We are talking food production, and my guests, I have a diverse and very able panel that's going to be talking about what we are discussing, which is food production. I'm going to start from the far end there. We have Eva Stemanova. She is coming from the EU. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very well.
All right. Next to her, I have Dr. Sydney Peary, food technologist in charge of post-harvest technologies and food processing from Zari. How are you?
Fine, thanks. And how are you?
Fine, thank you. I have Dr. Rhoda Morphia, a nutrition coordinator from Food Agriculture Organization.
Thank you very much, and pleasure to be here.
All right. So Dr. Peary is not the only gentleman on set. We have Dr. Christian on Skype. He'll be joining us online. Thank you to technology. We won't miss his presence. He is the principal cropping systems agronomist. Hello, Christian. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. Hi, it's a pleasure, and thanks for having me as well.
All right. Now, with my participants, we're going to dwell into this issue. And remember, we have a competition, or is it an interaction, running on our socials online. So get to Facebook and see what's scrolling on your screens to answer that question, and you stand to win 1,000 kwacha grocery voucher. So if I were you, I'd go right there and start typing to answer some of the questions that will be on the Facebook page. Let's start with this one. The agriculture sector is facing challenges as a key sector for our food systems. What are the main challenges? And Christian, I'll come to you for this one.
Okay. No, I mean, the Zambian farming sector is really exposed by a range of challenges. And amongst them is, of course, climate change, as well as declining soil fertility. And smallholder farmers have to cope with this situation with their cropping systems. And fertilizer is not the only solution to these. And what we know from our work is that farmers need more diversified systems to address the issues of climate change and soil fertility decline. Just to give you a brief example, I have been working in Zambia for the last 18 years, and I've seen an increased number of droughts, stress situations, heat stress, and also a decline in rainfall. This year is a typical example. The rainfall season started very late, and then we got huge rainfalls, and that is terrible for a farmer to deal with it. But there's also hope. We have some farmers who have adapted their cropping systems to the new normal.
Let me have Sydney comment on this as well.
Yeah.
The issue of, agriculture sector facing many challenges, and just what these main challenges are.
Yeah, one of the challenges is that of post-harvest losses. What I can see here right now is actually, I can call it a bumper harvest, so to speak. But we cannot consume all this food just today. We need it maybe tomorrow, up to maybe 1 month time. But so if we cannot consume it today, then we need to store it. But that is the challenges that our small scale farmers are having. So they can have a bumper harvest, but that bumper harvest is not only theirs, it is also a bumper harvest for insects, termites, and rodents. So if they cannot put in nice technologies, what is the bumper harvest today, then you find that next time it is actually food insecurity.
Okay.
So that is the biggest challenge with our smallholder farmers. They do not have good post-harvest technologies that they can keep their food in the next year or until the next season.
Why should we opt for climate smart agriculture and the conservation agriculture when we talk about that? And you could come in here.
Yes, I just wanted also to compliment Sydney when he was talking about storage, because we also have animal production. We have also rearing of animals, and we have meat and meat products that can reach the market. And that is even more complicated because that requires cold storages, even if a truck breaks down on the road, you can lose all your production because you need to get it to the cold storage. You need to be able to give it, to sell it. And it's not as easy as seeds that can wait, and it's just perishable product. So why we need to go into conservation agriculture? First and foremost, we talk about climate change and how we had droughts, now we have floods, and even in one area you can have a drought and a flood at the same time and lose a harvest, which will be very detrimental to a household. And these kind of techniques that we try to promote is that actually it creates the sustainability and it creates security for the household, that applying such techniques, they can be sure that they will have what to eat and maybe to sell on the market. And it's very important that they diversify not only a specific crop, but also few crops, maybe some animal products, so that if one product is sold on the market, you still have from the other one, and that you can always secure the nutrition of the family.
All right. A comment on smart agriculture as well as conservation agriculture. Why should we opt for this?
First of all, let me explain the concepts. Conservation agriculture is a cropping system based on three main principles. And these are minimum soil disturbance, crop residue retention, and crop diversification. And all three principles are essential for farmers to increase productivity, profitability, but also reduce the environmental impact. Climate smart agriculture, on the other hand, is another framework that aims to reduce the burden on farmers. So it increases productivity, it adapts to the changing climate, and it also mitigates the effects of climate change that come from agriculture. So we want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and we want to sequester carbon in the system.
If this works, why aren't farmers adopting this approach?
Maybe just go back to the issue of challenges.
Yeah.
In addition to what my colleagues mentioned, there are preconditions that the farmers require in order for them to produce effectively. One aspect is the one that Christian mentioned relating to climate change and the natural environment. And in that respect, there isn't so much we can do to influence the environment. We can't influence the floods, but we can produce drought-tolerant crops, for example, or early maturing varieties. So you find that most of the farmers do not have access to those inputs, as you mentioned in your introduction. So we need to invest more into, for example, irrigation in order for us to produce these foods throughout. Okay. That's one way in which we can address the issues of drought, for example. And another way would be for us to invest more in research and development. Okay. In those areas, we can develop resistant varieties to drought. And another precondition that we need as a country is stable policies. Farmers need to know, for example, in advance, how much they're going to sell their crops before they even plant. For example, right now it's planting season. Most farmers don't know how much the FRA price is going to be. And that's where they can't plan effectively. So we need these conditions in order for productivity to be enhanced, in order for us to have adequate food production.
Okay. How's the EU approaching this issues of, why farmers aren't adopting some of these, conditions you've been talking about?
We understand why actually farmers don't adopt them is because sometimes there is lack of access to machinery, there is lack of access to quality seeds and fertilizer, organic fertilizers, and we understand these challenges, and with the programs that we try to set up, we want to facilitate access to these inputs, access to credits, because also the banking sector may look that the agricultural sector is a risky sector just because of all the climate issue that we are talking about. So we try to support that with the knowledge, because the EU is rich in knowledge and technologies, and we want to share our experiences here and to help farmers mitigate all these challenges that they have.
Okay. Sydney, why is it important to improve diversity in food production as well as the consumption?
Yeah, it is very important because I can just give an example. When you look at diversification, I may consider it as plan B. Now, whenever we are talking about plan B in any situation, it means there's plan A, but it seems that plan A is not going well. That's how you come to plan B. So in this era where we have got climate change, we see that maybe there's drought. So our maize, which is our plan A, is not going so well. So when we diversify to plan B, which is sorghum, for example, which is drought tolerant, and maybe we can also diversify with soybeans, which can also fix nitrogen in the soil. So in an event where we have got drought, then it means maize may not do well. But because we have diversified with sorghum, we can still have something on the table. And more to it, soybeans has fixed nitrogen in the soil. So in the subsequent year, when we have maybe no more rain, then in that case, we'll have maize quite all right, but also with less input because nitrogen would have been fixed by soybeans. So in that way, diversification helps us to have food all the time on the table.
Various variety, isn't it?
Exactly.
Christian, how can we support the many smallholder farmers? Can they handle the CSA techniques, the diversification as well?
Yeah, well, diversification, as Sydney mentioned, is can be challenging for farmers who depend on their food on the table every day. Maize is their predominant crop, and they eat it every day. And farmers, they try to assure that they have enough maize. But it's not good for their nutrition, as has been mentioned, and it's not good for the soil as well. That's why diversification, not only through another cereal, but with a legume, can really add value because it provides additional protein in the diet that helps the farmers, and it also improves the overall nutrition of the diet. So if we want to produce food more sustainably using, for example, climate smart agriculture, we need to also provide them with the technologies like seeds for legumes to be able to adapt and adopt them on their fields. That is often a challenge because maize is available because there is a formal market for maize, but legume seed is not readily available because seed companies often do not see a value in stocking up legume seed. So also the multiplication of legume seed is more challenging than maize. So under CFAS, we have a provision for multiplying seed. CFAS is one of the EU-funded projects called Sustainable Intensification of Farming Systems in Zambia. And this is very successful in some areas. For example, in Northern Province, where we practice diversification with beans, farmers make a lot of money by trading over the border with Tanzania. And surprisingly, all these farmers are able to buy themselves a motorcycle to come to our meetings. So that's the level of improvement in their livelihood and their cash income through the beans.
Okay. Eva, would you like to come in on this one, especially when it comes to diversification, and he's beginning to mention some areas that I know EU touches in terms of diversification and techniques and how to handle?
As Christian said, this is part of our program, Support Sustainable Intensification Practices, where we are in 17 districts, also touching to some districts, as we have spoken before, scale-up nutrition, where we try to interlink different farming techniques, in view of providing nutrition for the households and also promoting nutrition sensitive agricultural practices. So it's a very well integrated program where we show the farmers of different climate smart agricultural techniques, we provide the inputs, and then we also try to link them to the market, because that's the last mile, as we say, for the farmers to be able to sell their markets. And we also try to digitalize information so that traders, aggregators, smallholder farmers can meet into this platform and exchange this very important market data. Because people need to know where is the market. As Rhoda said, they need to know where they can sell, but also off-takers need to know who are the producers, because they also need quantities to be able to export or just to satisfy the local market. So we try to look at this in a holistic way. And by the far end, the idea is that we give an opportunity for the farmer to improve his incomes, his nutritious status, and to ensure that there is livelihoods. And we have to be also conscious that there is a difference with different rural areas. Some farmers may be too remote from the markets, some may be in a place when it's well established. So we try also to link those that are remote to a maybe district, as we call it, localized value chain, so that they don't feel isolated from the whole system, and that they also have secured markets for their products.
Very true, very true. All right, so thank you very much for coming through. Appreciate we've had a very deep conversation when it comes to issues of food production and how it relates to Zambia. Appreciate you coming through.
Thank you.
Christian, that goes to you as well. Thank you so much.
The effects of climate change, such as drought, flash floods, and so on, have actually affected the community of this area.
Okuno kubusana nkotubede ibunje bamaboho agaba dry kamba jini tunyina ihija tamenda mbuli mahiba amadamu tatwijisi.
Water is life. Kutika kunyina menda kunyina bumi kumuntu soko kutalya menda itwa data twanoaberesha katuhiba uti menda mbobumi bwesu kunyina muntu kwa yakupona kunyina menda.
The main challenges are indeed climatic and the pressures on water resources. So of course in the lower Kafue subcatchment we have various water users. We have the energy sector that is critical for the country's energy production on the Kafue River. We have the large-scale commercial agriculture, and we have millions of smallholder farmers.
Water is found in every sector, and the water is used by everybody. But you see, because we are in a situation of drought, we need this water to be shared.
If, say, somebody who's living upstream does whatever he or she wants to the water, maybe blocks the water, he affects the people downstream. So the message there is, whatever you do with the water, know to say you are affecting someone downstream.
The lower Kafue subcatchment has a total population of 4.5 million people. So there's a lot of farmers that will benefit from the overall catchment activities. But we specifically target 11,000 farmers with trainings to benefit from the approaches of water harvesting and using the water efficiently.
Mulch will help you hold moisture, and you don't need to water your crops every day on a daily basis, no. We teach them good irrigation methods, good tillage practices under conservation agriculture, especially with the drip. There is a simple method where there are those buckets, the pipes are connected to the buckets, they are able to appreciate to say, a bucket is only going at 15, 20 kwacha. So all I need is to just put a pipe here and there. It is efficient use of water.
The lanes are erratic. If they are not erratic, we don't receive enough. So during those dry periods, that's the essence of harvesting water. You gap up. in rural setup, they have the thatched houses. So we introduce the drainages so that even those who have thatched houses, they can harvest enough water. If we can have 20,000 farmers adopting this knowledge, it will be a plus.
As they continue getting whatever they are learning from the demo plot, they go and practice it. As they practice it, they will raise their standard of living. They'll start realizing enough money, then they will be planning on their own.
I think it will have a step wonkakumbira mukati mukuiyawo kwali chisika garden kashonto biyo mbotunwa yuba kuihamagana ama drip ayawa. I think it will agome ama garden eso.
On the other hand, through the integrated watershed management measures that the AWARE project is implementing, the smallholder farmers and the communities dig trenches in their area, and through that water is being stored, and then the water sinks into the ground, and by that the groundwater level is increased.
The purpose of capturing the water is actually to replenish the underground water table, so that grass can actually again germinate, flourish, shrubs can actually grow, and restoring the area around. That is the purpose of sinking this water down.
Imenda akali kunga mbulisu na alimani denka indi but twakaja tamenda amwi ngotuberesha kunywa mukaronga mweya mumwena pona twihango abwizu kobuli kambuka utedeni imenda nakakhalira ibwizu bwakamena mubunji songombe hesu ngijita benefits.
If you have got enough water, I think you can do anything. People will be able to have their gardens close to their homes. They'll be growing vegetables, they'll be able to sell, and they'll be able to take their children to higher education learning.
Thank you so much for still watching Mumpoto. This is a program that has been brought to you courtesy of the European Union. Now, this show brings to you the nutrition debates and facts. I hope you've been getting them so far as we've been giving them to you directly from the specialists, the people who are in this field, and how exactly these facts and debates are going to translate into something nutritious and help us as an economy as well as a healthy nation. With my guests, I have a new panel now. We will talk water and water stress. My new panel will indeed analyze the situation of water availability, and this is of course relating to my country, to our country, and we'll explain to how farmers, but also you the consumers, and how households can improve access to water at individual level through water harvesting. And my new panel of guests, we will start from the only gentleman who is on the panel, Henrik Otte, team leader from GIZ. Thank you so much for coming through. How are you?
Thank you, I'm fine. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Next to him, we have from the European Union, Cristina Soriani. She is the program manager. How are you? Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. And we are now going to get to the Ministry of Agriculture, Faith Hatontola, Senior Agriculture Officer for Pemba District. Coming all the way to Lusaka, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you to have me here.
All right. And then we also get to the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, Florence Simumba, Director of Water Resources Development. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, we are going to talk, and you're going to be answering the question of how to harvest water for food and production. But let's start from how the water situation is here in our country, in Zambia. Is there enough water to meet the demand for our growing population? We'll start from you, Florence.
In terms of the water that we have in the country, as you may be aware, there are different demands, but of course, water resources is one of the major resources that we have, which we need as a country, and which we have, except that as much as it is there, it's not in terms of distribution and space. You may find that when we come like to food production, it's very, very important because we can't do food production without any water. But you also know that we also need water for hydropower, the electricity that we use. We need water, which is a basic need for our own consumption as water supply. So you find that we have the water quite okay as a country, but in different quantities in different areas. That is both for surface water and groundwater. If you look at the probably like the southern part of the country, over the years it's been coming a bit drier, and you have seen that some and most of the conventional farmers are moving to Mukoshi farm block and the northern part of the country, which seemingly is having more water. So there's that thing that as a country we need to say what do we do, especially if we can't get surface water, we always go to the groundwater. So in a way it is there, but we need to see how do we manage it, and that's how the issues of management of water resources for our country are also very important, because we need to ensure that there's equity in the way we distribute water and that people should have it when they need it.
Okay.
Yes.
Henrik, what's your interaction and your research saying from the GIZ point of view?
Yeah, maybe to just break it down, when we talk about the water situation, we need to look at how much water do we have and how much water do we need. And I think currently we are facing quite some trends globally, but also in Zambia, looking at climate change, heavily impacting water supply. We observe shifting rainfall patterns, but also droughts in the last year, for example, in southern province. This year, these extreme floods, which are hitting the southern part of the country. On the demand side, we have a growing population in Zambia. We have a growing economy. So we need more water, while water becomes less and less predictable on the other end.
Okay. When it comes to the Zambian government, especially in the Ministry of Agriculture, and addressing this challenge on a national level, how does this sit? Let's start from the Ministry of Agriculture. Faith, what would you say to that?
Like looking at it from where I come from, Pemba, we find that water also is a challenge because we are very much dependent on the rainfall when it comes to the issues of agriculture, which we do during the wet season as well as during the dry season. And so, like, for example, the rains which we receive, looking at it from the agroecological zone where we are coming from, okay, so already we're not receiving as much rainfall as our friends from the northern part of the country. So, and as well, this rainfall comes with different patterns. I can give an example of, like this year, what has happened. We've received the rainfall late than we usually do. Yeah. So as a result, most of the farmers, they had to go into doing their cultivation late, and it also shortened the time they're supposed to do their activities in the field. Also comes the issue of the dry spells, which we are facing in the middle of the season, sometimes like what has happened in the previous season. So even that, you find that it affects the farmers when it comes to like the water which they need for their crops. And then like what has happened this year, there's the issue of the floods. We are having too much water than the usual. And you find that most of the farmers, they are finding it a challenge to control that, because what they have been facing in the previous season, it was a different thing. And then when we come to the water which you use for irrigation, we're also dependent on the rainfall to fill up these rivers which we have. Like for instance in Pemba, we've got these two perennial rivers, and due to the issues of deforestation, the issue of overgrazing and other activities which happens which are not good, which don't favor the flow of the river, you find that they dry out, during the dry season. So you find that even the streams which they're supposed to feed, the farmers, they have to walk distances and distances to access water from them, because now they have dried out and the river itself no longer flows as the way it used to
flow, isn't it? But
yeah.
Let me bring in the EU here. How does the EU and its member state partners, with the Zambian government to address these challenges of water resources management in the country?
Thank you.
Because the scenario she's explained is quite,
Yes, absolutely, it's very challenging. And the EU and its member states, as Team Europe, have had a very long-standing partnership around water and around also natural resources, agriculture. And obviously, we understand that there are very many issues at stake, and there are many challenges that affect the use both of water, access to water, use of water. And so we are looking at it, trying to approach it with an integrated approach, which means we are looking at improving agricultural practices, taking into account also agroecological zones, which means we support the farmers in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture on identifying, and obviously with the Ministry of Water, in identifying technologies that are helping farmers to retain more moisture in the soil, and so that they can use less water depending on what they want to grow where. So taking into account really the climate also condition and the type of soil. Another things that we look at is, as you said, the river, the streams. We have areas that are going dry, and they're going dry because there are agricultural practices maybe that are not sustainable. There is climate change, so this means that we are supporting interventions that are aimed at strengthening the watershed management, but also at harvesting water, so that that affects both the improved access to water for households, but also for practices. And next to it, I would say that we try also to look at the environment. So forestry is very important, afforestation, creating an environment that help retain water in the soil.
And I know, Henrik, there's a specific project that is doing this for GIZ, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. AWARE is one of the projects the EU and its member states funds to address the challenges we are talking about here today. I would like to emphasize what my colleague Christina has mentioned. I think these big challenges of climate change, we cannot address them in silos or as individuals. We have to use integrated approaches. And this is also why you see Ministry of Water and Ministry of Agriculture here. And there are many more ministries we are working together with to really join forces as cooperating partners and as government line ministries to address these challenges. And I think I would like to come to the topic of today, the rainwater harvesting, because it's a promising technology in addressing these challenges. I think as AWARE, we are promoting different technologies which basically address the situation of having heavy downpours falling on your farm and you just see them rushing away. All the water is gone, taking the valuable nutrients, and you have no more water. So in a very short period of time, there's a lot of water, and then for the majority of the year, there's no water. So we try to capture this water through rainwater harvesting. This is what we call rainwater harvesting, and store it. And we promote 3 technologies. One is an individual one, just the simple one, I'm sure you have seen it. It's a rain gutter on a roof, where we use the catchment area of the roof to collect water. We have small earth dams where communities collect runoff and use this water in a reservoir. And the last most promising success story is actually where we use the environment, because the environment as it was collecting water, was harvesting water and storing it. So the problem is just what my colleague has mentioned. We have deforestation, we have overgrazing, all leading to huge amounts of runoff. So by restoring this environment, we are actually harvesting water and recharge the groundwater, and thereby suddenly have our wells have water again.
Is that what the future looks like in regards to water?
Yes, I think that's, even as a ministry, as a government, that's where we are driving to, that we need to protect our water resources. You have heard so much has come in that we need to not to encroach the headwaters, because that's where our water is coming from. That's where our rivers are getting their life from. But also in terms of harvesting, we are also doing dams, we are doing weirs for small scale, even at a large scale, so that we can have this water when it comes in the rain season, so that when the dry season comes, we are able to do that. There are a lot of programs that we are doing as a government and working together with EU, GIZ, and a number of cooperating partners that are supporting government, and we wish this can continue and be duplicated to the rest of the country.
I'll let EU wind this up for us.
Yes, we are definitely committed to support also the green transition, which means also management of very important resources like water. Water is life. So without life, there is no water. And we are definitely committed to continue in improving the management of water in the ecosystem, but also on the side of the use of water. So there is, in terms of water and sanitation, so increasing the efficiency of this system, which actually contributes to greater health, better also social condition. And lastly, I would say that it is very important, we're looking very closely at the water and energy nexus, because as you said at the beginning, to have access to water, we use a lot of energy, and maybe there are other ways also to collect and store water that can use renewable energy, for instance solar. So big challenges, but big excitement.
With conversations such as this, most definitely some challenges for water will be gotten away with. Interesting conversation we've had. Thank you so much for coming through. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much.
The whole purpose around the technology is to deliver a holistic food systems approach. These gardens, one, exist as centers of excellence. They are spaces where other people can learn from other neighboring communities, as well as pupils within the school, where they can learn and adapt technologies which can be used to develop or grow interest around agriculture and farming, as it were, within the schools.
We're chosen as prefects, but before we're chosen as prefects, we're working in this place. It's just that we have the interest of working in the vegetables. It is somehow easy.
When they appointed me to start working here, I thought that no, I wouldn't manage, but as time went on, I learned a lot of things, how to manage this place, and now I'm very happy to learn here. I also want to start up my own greenhouse, so I can provide vegetables to my community, and not only to my community, but to my family.
The learners are able to do everything by themselves, and our role is just to supervise and give practical guidance on how to manage.
The second aspect is that of diversified diet. Pupils and the school are able to mobilize around growing different types of crops, which add a bit of flavor and a bit of diversity and a bit of difference to what the children consume on a daily basis.
We get vegetables from this place at least twice in a week for friends and us to enjoy.
So in a term, our budgetary allocation for vegetables was 7,200 kwacha, and now it is 0.
For income generation activities specifically, we are looking at the aspects where schools are actually able to grow crops, consume some of the crops that they grow, but the excess which is grown is actually made available to the local markets. And in doing that, the school is able to raise a bit of income that they can then plow back into the overall management and the running of the school.
Vegetables grown in a greenhouse are very tasty, tender and soft. And so the moment you advertise, a lot more people come to want to buy. It means we'll have more money to pump into teaching and learning materials. And the quantities harvested from the greenhouse, despite it being a small portion, is very huge. We harvest almost 2 times as much as we do from this conventional garden. This is a life changer. You have changed our lives.
This has been the Mumpoto Nutrition Facts as well as Debate, giving you what you need regards issues of nutrition, climate change, of course, how it's affecting, what health implications such beautiful food has on us as a country. On behalf of the entire production crew, would like to say thank you, of course, to the European Union who have made sure that this program is possible. My name is Jidin Gulube. Thank you very much.